everyone, my name is Vina, aka Miss WOCReader, and welcome back to my channel. I'm filming this a little bit later than I normally film my monthly wrap-ups, but I had family visiting. The month of November was a little chaotic in that regard. I didn't have a lot of time to film, and then when I had time to film this weekend, for some reason I had it in my mind, oh, I didn't really read much in November, and most of the stuff I read was kind of average, so I don't really have anything to say. But then when I was actually checking my Goodreads after the fact, I'm like, oh, there are a couple books here that I actually really enjoyed, and some ones that I do have some thoughts on that I want to talk about. I actually read more than I thought I did. So I'm sitting down to just give you a quick little mini wrap up of the things that I read during the month of November. And you can let me know in the comment section if you've read any of them. Let's get right on into it. I finally finished Psychopomp and Circumstance by Eden Royce, and can I say I wanted this to be like an all-time fave, and I was kind of bored with it, to be honest. So it started off really good. We are following this young woman named Fee. She is like a high society woman, and her family is trying to marry her off, and she's kind of getting old to be like still a single woman. It's time for her to go out in the world, but her parents don't want her to go out in the world without a husband. She decides when her estranged aunt dies that she's going to go handle the funeral rites. Back during the Reconstruction era, the funeral rites were very, very important and like very, very sacred. So a lot of this is following hoodoo traditions, which I thought that part was interesting, but the cover had me thinking there was going to be a lot more spookiness and creepiness and just like magic than what we actually got. Like, she goes to her aunt's house and it's in this mysterious town and little things are happening, but I felt like for a novella the pacing was so slow. It dragged. So I had started this back at the end of August, and I was reading it during like a work day before a holiday, and I ended up getting bored and like putting it to the side, and then every time I tried to go pick it back up, I was stuck on like chapter 8 forever. And so finally I sat down and I decided to finish it at the beginning of November. Unfortunately, it's just not what I wanted it to be. I then read Heartsick by Christina Forrest. I've read all of Christina Forrest's books so far, and I will say for me, her best books are still her first two YA books. I feel like after her first two YA books, she's been mostly writing to editors, and also those were with Macmillan, and the rest of her books have been with Penguin, and I've noticed just like a stark difference in the way that the editors at Penguin edit her. Like, I was happy because I wanted a shorter book from her, but at the same time, this one just felt out of touch in so many ways. We're following these two teens. One of them works as an intern at a clinic that offers these pills that help you get over a heartache. And one of the teens comes in, he's ready to take the pill, ends up changing his mind. They overhear some information that they shouldn't have heard, and then they end up on the run. I feel like this concept would have worked so much better as an adult book rather than with teens, because they're on the run trying to find out this information about this company, and it just felt unrealistic for a bunch of high schoolers. It was very hard to suspend belief because it's not like these were spies in training. These were just two kids on the run up against this big corporation. And on top of that, they were trying to have conversations, but not really. Like, there were a lot of conversations that could have been had about wealth, but they were just so poorly done here, and it felt out of touch. It actually had me questioning like what she knows about dealing with lower income people, because the way in which she wrote this, it was like she was under the impression like if you come from a low income background, you can't go to college. When we know that's not true. And that was especially weird because this is set in the Philadelphia area, which is something that I did appreciate, but I know for a fact in the Philadelphia area, a lot of different schools come recruiting people with scholarships, especially in those lower income neighborhoods, especially if you come from a family where they weren't able to go to college. So like this whole idea that if you don't have money, you just can't go off to college. I'm like, we didn't even get into scholarships and grants and all that other stuff at all. And like there was just like a Disney bow ending. The villains here were very cartoonish. Half the book kind of like pushes the romance aspect to the side to mostly deal with this over the top plot, which again I don't really feel was done well. This could have been a great concept if we workshopped it more and just like really took it where it needed to go. Let's Give 'em Pumpkin to talk about. This one is by Isabel Pop. I wanted a cutesy fall romance, small town, and it definitely had the fall romance and cutesy part correct, but then at the same time it was like overly sexual. So it's like you have like a little bit of cute fall stuff and then a lot of overt sexuality, and I don't feel like these two characters had any chemistry together. So you have like the alternative girl, she's fat, she moves to the beat of her own drum, and then you have this billionaire who just so happened to move to this small town and decided to run a farm. Not enough farming was done for me. They kept talking about this competition, but not really putting in effort. And then we would like randomly get info dump on pumpkins and how to grow them and stuff like that. So like a lot of time I'm like, where are we going with this? So needless to say, this wasn't really enjoyable. The King Must Die by Kemi Oshingiwa. This is a science fantasy novel. So it's found family. There was a lot of really cool technology here. You're basically following this woman who gets together this band of rebels to form an army. If you like a lot of like military school training, if you like old school sci-fi, this would work for you. I feel like it was a little bit of like a Star Wars x Dune mashup. I enjoyed it for the most part. Like it was okay. I did think like it was a pretty cool world, but I wasn't like overly enthralled by the characters. I feel like there could have been a little bit more to them. Blood and Breath by Kuratelin. So I wanted to love this one. Like this was one of my most anticipated reads for the fall. And this is supposed to be like a 1920s New Orleans set fantasy. And it started out very good. We're following this young woman. She writes these contracts between humans and devils. And she is one of these people called the Magi, which are like these people who had to go underground because of their special abilities. Something happens where she ends up getting sabotaged and then she's almost dying, so she makes a deal with this devil. And the book kind of alternates between her and this devil. So I think like as far as darkness and the world, the author did a really great job there, but the setting as far as the 1920s felt really flat. I did not buy this as the 1920s at all. I had to keep reminding myself this was in the 1920s. It also didn't really feel like New Orleans. I feel like this was an urban fantasy, even though it was supposed to be a historical fantasy, and that kind of disappointed me. And also, I didn't realize this was a series going into it. For some reason, I thought this was a standalone, and so much time is just spent building up for book 2, and I hate when first books do that. So I'm not sure if I want to continue the series or not. I read The Little Book of Winter by Brittany Bicklund, and this was just a guide on how to have a cozy winter, basically. So I did a video with like tips for how to have a cozy winter. I did that video and then I read this book thinking that the book would give me some different ideas. Some ideas were really interesting, but so much of the book was repetitive and just telling you to enjoy the season and blah 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 blah. Which, yeah, enjoy the season, definitely. But like the book did not need to be as long as it was. It just felt like so much of it was just filling pages when this was truly like a series of blog posts just slapped into book form. It did not need to be a book. Like, I had read this earlier in the month, but I wanted to save it to last. I read Mystery James Digs Her Own Grave by Ali Russell. And I don't know where my physical copy is. I'm so mad. I don't know where I put it. I'm going to end up finding it hopefully soon. I'm going to have to like search all over the place. But I really enjoyed this one. I had a good time with this book. It was the first middle grade that I had read in a while that I was truly enthralled in, and I read the whole thing in the course of a day, which I don't really do with middle grade anymore. Like, I felt like the length was good enough where it didn't feel too overly long. I felt like the characters were great. Mystery James was a girl who was found in a cemetery as a baby. So then her Tia, not her biological Tia, but like she calls her Tia, takes her in and she runs a funeral home. So Mystery, she's a little bit weird, but she fully embraces her weirdness and has a lot of confidence to her. She has her best friend Garrett, who he has like this family reputation he's always trying to live up to. And sometimes he gets on her nerves, but they're great friends together. They like weird stuff. They like hanging out in the cemetery. Well, one day the wealthiest woman in town dies and her family has Mystery and her Tia planned a funeral. Mystery usually just smells ghosts, but this is the first time she actually sees a ghost. After that, like a prize necklace ends up disappearing after the woman is buried. It ends up at an auction shop and her Tia is framed for it. Mystery decides she has to figure out how this necklace went missing, like what's going on. She ends up encountering this vampire ghost like hybrid, and I just thought this was a great time. I think it's a good book for young readers who love paranormal stuff. I feel like this is not too heavy in the paranormal. It's not like a scary like horror side. It's more like spooky and intriguing. And it definitely has me wanting to pick up another book by Ellie Russell because I thought this was so good. And this was the first in a series too. So I'm looking forward to seeing what adventures Mystery goes on next. So that was everything that I read during the month of November. Let me know if you've read any of these books. Did you have a good reading month in November, or was your November all over the place like mine? And if you like this video, make sure and hit that like button. Thanks so much for watching. I will see you guys in the next one. Bye!